The apology. The apology professes to be a record of the actual speech that Socrates delivered in his own defense at the trial. This makes the question of his historicity more accurate than the dialogues in which the conversation themselves are mostly fictional, and the question of historicity is concerned only with how far the theories that Socrates is representing as expressing were those of the historical Socrates. Here, however, we are dealing with a speech that Socrates made as a matter of history. How far is Plato's account accurate? We should always remember that the ancient did not expect historical accuracy in the way we do. On the other hand, Plato makes it clear that he was present at the trial. Moreover, if, as is generally believed, the apology was written not long after the event, many Athenians would remember the actual speech, and it would be a poor way to vindicate the master, which is the obvious intent, to put a completely different speech into his mouth. Some liberates could not doubt be allowed, but the main argument and the general tone of the defense must surely be faithful to the original. The beauty of language and style is certainly Plato's, but the serene spiritual and moral beauty of the character belongs to Socrates. It is a powerful combination. Athenian juries were very large, in this case 501, and they combined the duties of jury and judge as we know them by both convicting and sentencing. Obviously, it would have been virtually impossible for so large a body to discuss various penalties and decide on one. The problem was resolved rather neatly, however, by having the prosecutor, after conviction, assess the penalties he thought appropriate, followed by a counter-assessment by the defendant. The jury would then decide between the two. This procedure generally made for moderation on both sides. Thus, the apology is in three parts. The first and major part is the main speech, followed by the counter-assessment, and finally, last words of the jury, both to those who voted for the death sentence and those who voted for acquittal. I do not know, men of Athens, how my accusers affected you. As for me, I was almost carried away in spite of myself, so persuasively did they speak. And yet, hardly anything of what they said is true. Of the many lies they told, one in particular surprised me, namely, that you should be careful not to be deceived by an accomplished speaker like me, that they were not ashamed to be immediately proved wrong by the facts, when I showed myself not to be an accomplished speaker at all, that I thought was most shameless on their part, unless indeed they call an accomplished speaker the man who speaks the truth. If they mean that, I would agree that I am an orator, but not after their manner, for indeed, as I say, practically nothing they said was true. From me you will hear the whole truth, though not by those gentlemen, expresses in embroidered and stylish phrases like theirs, but things spoken at random and expressed in the first words that come to mind. For I put my trust in the justice of what I say, and let none of you expect anything else. It would not be fitting at my age, as it might be for a young man, to toy with words when I appear before you. One thing I do ask and beg of you, gentlemen, if you hear me making making my defense in the same kind of language as I am accustomed to use in the marketplace by the banker's table, where many of you have heard me, and elsewhere. Do not be surprised to create a disturbance on that account. The position is this. This is my first appearance in a law court, and at the age of 70. I am therefore simply a stranger to the manner of speaking here, just as if I were really a stranger. Would you actually excuse me if I speak in that dialect and manner in which I had been brought up? So too my present request seem a just one, for you to pay no attention to my manner of speech, be it little or worse, but to concentrate your attention on whether what I say is just or not. For the excellence of a judge lies in this, at that of a speech lies in telling the truth. It is right for me, gentlemen, to defend myself, first against the first lying accusation made against me and my first accuser, then against the latter accusation and the latter accuser. There have been many who have accused me to you for many years now, and none of their accusations are true. These I fear much more than I fear Anytus and his friends, though they too are formidable. These earlier ones, however, are more so. Gentlemen, they got hold of most of you from childhood, persuaded you and accused me quite falsely, saying that there is a man called Socrates, a wise man, a student of all things in the sky and below the earth, who makes the worse argument the stronger. Those who spread the rumor, gentlemen, are by dangerous accusers, for their hearers believe that those who study these things do not even believe in the gods. Moreover, these accusers are numerous and have been at it a long time. They also spoke to you at any age when they would mostly readily believe them. Some of you being children and adolescents, and they won their case by default, as there was no defense. What is most absurd in all this is that one cannot even know or mention their names, unless one of them is a writer or of comedies. Those who maliciously and slanderously persuade you, who also, when persuaded themselves, then persuade others, all those are more difficult to deal with. One cannot bring one of them into the court of law, or refute him. One must simply fight with shadows, as it were, in making one's defense, the cross-examining when no one answers. I want you to realize too that my accusers are of two kinds: those who have accused me recently and the old ones I mentioned. And to think that I must first defend myself against the latter, for you have also heard their accusations first, and to a much greater extent than the more recent. Very well then, men of Athens, I must surely defend myself and attempt to uproot from your minds in so short a time the slander that has resided here so long. I wish this may happen, if it is in any way better for you and me, and that my defense might be successful. But I think this is very beautiful, and I am aware of the beauty, and am aware of how difficult it is. Even so, let the matter process as the God may wish, but I must obey the law and make my defense. Let us then take up the case from its beginning. What is the accusation from which arose the slander in which Malchus trusted when he wrote out the charge against me? What did they say when they slandered me? I must, as if they were my actual prosecutors, read defiant, they would have sworn the affidavit, they would have sworn. It goes to something like this: Socrates is guilty of wrongdoing in that he busies himself studying things in the sky and below the earth. He makes the worse into stronger arguments, and he teaches those same things to others. You have seen this yourself in the comedy of Aristophanes, a Socrates swinging about there, saying he was walking on air and talking a lot to other nonsense about things of which I know nothing at all. I do not speak in contempt of such knowledge. If someone is wise in these things, let Malchus bring more case against me. But, gentlemen, I have no part in it, and on this point I call upon the majority of you as witness. I think it right that all those of you who have heard me conversing, and many of you who should tell each other, if and any of you has ever heard me discussing such subjects to any intent at all, from this day will learn that the other things said about me and Socrates I think it right that all those of you who have heard me conversing, and many of you have should tell each other, if any one of you has ever heard me discussing such subjects to any extent at all. From this you will learn that the other things said about me by the majority are of the same kind. Not one of them is true. And if you have heard from anyone that I undertake to teach people and charge a fee for it, that is not true either. Yet I think it a fine thing to be able to teach people, as Gorgias of Leontini does, and Prodicus and Sios, and Hippias of Elis. Each of these men can go to any city and persuade the young, who can keep company with any one of their own fellow citizens they want without paying, to leave the company of these, to join with themselves, pay them a fee, and be grateful to them beside. Indeed, I learned that there is another wise man from Paros who is visiting us, for I met a man who has spent more money on sophists than anybody else put together. Callis, the son of Hipponicus. So I asked him. He has 2 sons. Callias, I said, if your sons were colt or calves, we could find and engage a superior and find and engage a supervisor for them who would make them excel in their proper qualities. So horse breeders are farmers. Some horse breeder are farmer. Now, since they are men, whom do you have in mind to supervise them? Who is an expert in this kind of excellence, the human, social kind? I think you must have given thought to this, since you have sons. Is there such a person, I ask? Or is there not? Certainly there is, he said. Who is he? I asked. What is his name? Where is he from? And what is his fee? His name, Socrates, is Evenus. He comes from Paros, and his fee is 5 minas. I thought Venus a happy man, if he really possesses this art, teaches for so moderate a fee. Certainly, I would pride and preen myself if I had this knowledge, but I do not have it, gentlemen.